Okay, so moving on. We finished example 1. I want to go through examples 2 through 4 in this video because I think I can get through these a little bit quicker than example 1. What this next part focuses on is defined terms. So defined terms, we already talked about lines. We're going to talk about segments and rays. So segments have endpoints. We can measure segments, all right? So it consists of the endpoints and all the points on that line that are between the two endpoints, okay? We can name AB, BA. Those are interchangeable just like lines, but endpoints are specific to segments. They have two endpoints. Now rays are a little different. A ray has an endpoint, and then it has another point that ray intersects and then keeps crossing through, okay? So when we look at these, the ray at the top here, I would name that ray BA with one arrow, okay? I would name that with one arrow. The other ray, the one on the bottom, I would name AB. So whenever you name a ray, you always start with the end point of that ray to name it, okay? So I'm going to go over some examples of how to name them, how to identify them. So in example 2, we're going to give another name for segment VX. I think a pretty simple way to give another name for segment VX is XV. Just flip around the letters because that doesn't change the endpoints, okay? But we have to name it using the endpoints. We can't name it WX. That's a different segment. In part B, it says name all rays with point W as an endpoint. So I'm going to be able to name 4 rays with W as an endpoint. And I'm going to start with WX with my single arrow going this way. I'm going to name WV with this ray, an endpoint of W. Next one, WY going this way, and then the last one, WZ, pointing this way, okay? So when I talk about these rays, the ones that are opposite rays, WX and WV are opposite rays. They're pointing in opposite directions, all right? And they share an endpoint. In the same way, WY and WZ are opposite rays because they share that endpoint and they're pointing in opposite directions. If you notice, opposite rays form lines. So that's an important concept to remember, okay? Next, we're going to talk about the got it. So this would be a good time to pause and try these problems, and then I'll work through them, okay? So in the got it, it says give another name for a line segment YW. So if I look at YW, the only other way I can name it is WY. Same endpoints, different orientation, the way I write them. But we got to use those endpoints. All right, part B says are rays VX and XV the same ray? And let's think about it. VX would be, I'll use a different color. VX would be this ray right here in blue, okay? XV would be, I'm going to do this one in black, I guess. XV would start at X and go towards V. So those are definitely not the same ray, so no, okay? Are rays VW and VX the same ray? I'm going to have to erase a little bit here. Are rays VW and VX the same ray? VW would be, use green. VW would be this ray. VX would be this ray. Okay, so yes, those would be the same ray. They have the same endpoint, and they share all the same other points. So yes, those would be the same ray. So they have to have the same endpoint, they have to share all of their points to be the same ray, okay? So these last two examples kind of look at our ability to draw, okay? So this is a little tough. So whenever I ask you to sketch a plane, okay, I'm gonna use green for my plane. Sketching a plane, just try and draw some sort of piece of paper looking thing, all right? It doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, mine's not. And I want to see a line that intersects it at more than one point, okay? So I think of a plane as a piece of paper. Maybe I think of my line as like a pencil. The only way it can intersect it at more than one point is if I draw that line on top of the plane. So the line lies on my plane. If the line were punching through the plane from the top or the bottom, that would just be intersecting it once. So the only way it can intersect it more than once is if it lies right on that plane, right? Next, sketch a plane and a line that is in the plane, and then sketch another line that intersects the line and the plane at a point. So I'm gonna go back, sketch my plane, sketch my line in the plane, so it's just laying on top. And this is a little tricky, but I need to draw a line like it's shooting through the bottom or the top of my plane. So I'm gonna draw a solid line here till it hits my line on the plane. And I'm gonna draw a dash line to show that it's going kind of behind the plane. So where that intersects is right here. So you think of this line, this red line, as shooting up through the plane, all right, at one single point, okay? And then the last example here, this is an important one. Sketch two planes that intersect in a line. And I'm gonna do a terrible job at drawing this, but I'm gonna draw my plane like I normally would, like a little piece of paper. And my other plane, basically, I'm just gonna draw it so that they share, almost like they're shapes, that they share a side, it looks like, okay? So that line that they share, it's gonna be that line, okay, that yellow line. So you think of two pieces of paper, or a wall meeting a floor, or something like that. The thing we've got to recognize, though, is that this is pointing, you know, in all directions. Both planes are pointing in all directions to infinity, but that they're intersecting at a line. So planes, this is an important thing, you may want to highlight this. Planes have to intersect at a line, okay, if they intersect, right? So what I want you guys to do now, pause the video, work through the got it questions, all right? And then once you're done, resume the video. I will explain through these, okay? So, got it number 4. Sketch two different lines that intersect a plane at different points. So I'm gonna draw my plane, my regular old plane, and two different lines that intersect at different points. So, the way I thought of this problem is I'm gonna draw one line kind of going at an angle into my plane. It's gonna hit here. And then it's gonna kind of pass through the back of it and then on the other side. My other line, let's put it right here. This line is punching up through it, but at another angle. And I should have drawn little dashes there, okay? Dash line to show it going behind, all right? But do you see how these lines intersect at different points? They intersect out here, but they intersect the plane here and here at different points, all right? So it's just two lines hitting it at two different points. That's all you got to do, all right? Number 5, name the intersection of line MX and line A. So we're using this diagram to the right. MX and line A. MX is this line, okay? Well, I guess it's a segment. I read that wrong. It's a segment, sorry. So MX, erase that. MX is this segment right here, and where it intersects line A. So if you think about it, there's really only one option there. You can explicitly see it. It's going to be point M. That's the only thing that could be possible there. So just being able to read that diagram, all right? And then if you remember from before, this is an important concept. That's why I included this again. The intersection of plane C and plane D. So it's like a piece of paper cutting through another piece of paper. So the intersection of those two planes is this line right here. Those two planes, I'll do that a better job. Not black, let's use yellow. Those two planes intersect at that line, and that line is line A. Oop, sorry. Lowercase a, sorry. There we go. So lowercase a. So line A is where those planes intersect. So I would say now you've got all you need to move on to the practice. I've also got a Kahoot that is a should do, so I'd like you to do it. It's going to be a really good idea so that you do well on the checkpoint, you can move on to the next lesson. Okay, so move on to the next step in your lesson. Ask me questions if something in this didn't make sense, but good luck on the rest of the lesson.